happen between now and September, but as of now, going into training camp, how do you feel about the makeup of this group?
Yeah, I'm really, really excited about where our group's at, what we were able to do on July 1. I think we added a lot of talent, a lot of experience, and I think we elevated our group. And so I'm really excited with how things turned out and how things are looking headed into training camp in September.
How much did you have an idea going into the day that you would be able to make all these signings?
You never know. Honestly, it's just such a race, and it's a little bit of a rat race, right? Like, it's just a super unpredictable time, and just to be able to lock in what we were able to lock in, I was really pleased.
You haven't submitted, I guess, more than 2 years than anyone before. What was it about Teravainen and Bertuzzi to go beyond those 2 years?
I think their style of play, how they can, fill different roles up and down the lineup, but especially their ability to play in the top six and help drive offense was something that we see value in, but it wasn't something we wanted just to have for 1 year or something. And frankly, if we wanted to go 1 or 2 years, we probably wouldn't have signed them. And so a little bit out of necessity to get the players, but also just guys that at this point of their career will be able to sustain a high level of play through those contracts.
Do they complement Bedard well if it ends up being that way? I mean, Teravainen play with Aho a lot. Bertuzzi kind of has the sort of gritty game that Bedard maybe doesn't have as much.
Yeah, whether it's with Connor or on a second line or wherever Luke wants to play them, I believe there are options to have those guys play with good players in the top six. And so, like you said, Tavo's played with good players in Carolina. Tyler's shown that he can play with some really good players and complement more skilled players very well. And so there's a lot of versatility there to how the coaches can use them. But their ability to play top 6 minutes and in offensive roles was the main appeal there.
Are these guys the kind of identity pieces that Nick Foligno and Seth Jones were talking about, and did you go into free agency looking for those type of players?
I don't necessarily know we were looking for identity players. I'd have to ask them what they meant by that, but I believe we did find players that, one, they have a true identity either in the top 6 or the bottom 6. You know exactly what they are. It's not, hey, if it doesn't work out in the top 6, they can play on the fourth line. I think that's more of an ambiguous role, and so I believe we've found players that truly do have a niche and a clear identity to them as to what they are, and I'm assuming that's more along the lines of what they're talking about, but that's also what we wanted to achieve too.
Well, they were also, hold on, I just want to follow. They were also talking about kind of grit. Well, I just want to follow grit and accountability, like bringing more accountability into the room.
I think the accountability aspect is driven through players playing in a certain role, knowing what's expected of them, and being able to hold them accountable to that. And so, but that part of that is also having players that can be put in a certain role and execute on that role and be held accountable to that role. And so I think it does play into the accountability factor as well.
With all the changes, where do you want to be next year? I mean, I know it's hard to say it's going to be X number of points.
Right.
But you've got some veterans coming in. You're going to be, you said you had to be better. You're going to be better.
And that's exactly it. We want to be better. We want to be better. We want to, we want to be able to go into games and impose ourselves on a game more than we have in the past, rather than trying to always stem the tide or having teams take it to us. We want to be able to play with the puck more and control the game a little more and obviously get more wins as a result. But I believe it's our ability to impose ourselves on the game more than we have in the certainly the last 2 years.
You've created more competition, which was the goal. But
Yep.
How do you balance this with when guys are ready? I mean, if Krasinski or Kaiser or Delmaster, any of those guys are out, I mean, there's a lot of veterans that are out there. How do you evaluate who's ready and making sure that getting so many veterans in also doesn't block their paths.
Yeah, and I don't see anyone being blocked, especially to the point of development being hindered here. If players are ready, especially young players are ready, and they're ready to come in and elevate the group more so than a player that's in a spot, then we'll make the decision on how to best find a role for them and find that. But what we couldn't do is what I believe happened a little last year, where we had spots for young players, and then maybe they're ready, maybe they were, just maybe, not quite thriving. You can't fix that in September. You have to have bodies in order to make sure that if you do need to give a prospect more time, you have to do that in July. You have to have the bodies there, so there is the opportunity for development, whether it's in Rockford, whether it's a lesser role. You can't fill those spots with veteran players ahead of some young guys that aren't quite ready in September. It's too late. And so, I think what we're looking for is to create an environment that's an environment of, more winning than it was in the past, and the young players can come up and elevate that when they are ready. I really admire they're in a different situation than us, but I really admire the development path that like Dallas took with Thomas Harley and a Logan Stankoven, where those players were brought in when they were ready to go and they were ready to elevate the group. And you saw with Stankoven, it was like a late season addition last year for Dallas, where he spent the time in the AHL, was really good in the AHL. I'm sure if that was our situation, we had a player doing that, we would have heard very early on that they need to be up. But Dallas waited, they were patient, and then he came in and was one of the more effective players down the stretch in the playoffs. And so I think that's more the situation that we'd like to follow, rather than put them in and hope that it works out throughout the year, because it can work for 2 weeks, a month, like we saw with even like Wyatt last year, good out of the gates. It's a tough league for young guys to thrive in, and we want our players to thrive. And the one thing that we've got at our disposal is Rockford, and I don't know if we've had a player that's gone down and come back up that hasn't gotten better in Rockford. And so we've got a ton of trust in Anders and his staff and the development staff working in Rockford to make sure that players go down there, they're going to be better. And all the evidence has shown that they do get better in Rockford. And so if that's the path we need to go, then we'll use that.
What do you see for Borchinski next year?
Kevin's got to come in and earn a spot. I think we've created some competition around roles. That's what we set out we wanted to do after the season. And so him, much like anyone else, he's got to come in and take a spot, and he's got to be the young guys are going to have to be convincing in doing so, because what we don't want is to give them a spot and then after, again, like a month or so, it's just not working out, and we'd had to clear someone out to clear a spot for them, and then we can't get that player back. And so we want to be very sure that they're going to come in and elevate the whole group through their play and be able to sustain that. And so they've just got to come in and take a role.
Kyle, with everything you've done this week, the draft, the free agency, would you say at this point this is a turning point for the organization going up?
I certainly hope we've taken a step. Yeah, I think the draft is a little bit of a different time horizon than a free agency, but another 3 first-round picks that we're really excited about. I think that's a step in one time horizon, and then some of the players we were able to add in free agency. I think we've made our NHL team better, which is great, and just to hopefully have more of a winning environment here in Chicago to bring young players into, I think will only serve to help the short-term development of those players, but the long-term horizons as well.
Yeah, like and Tyler both mentioned, Nick Foligno heavily recruiting them. 2 questions: does he get a commission? And what does it mean as a front office to have a veteran like that reaching out to guys and speaking on your behalf and getting guys to sign?
Yeah, it's nice. It's funny to hear. I think Nick's got a lot of friends around the league. He seems like a guy whose network is very, very large, and so it's kind of funny when we hear that. We don't we don't ask them to do these things, but I think Nick cares. He knows a lot of people, and he loves the team and wants to push this thing forward. So I think you can see that through some of his some of his discussions that he's had with guys, both internally and obviously he's met a lot of people along the way externally that he's willing to tell how great he thinks the Blackhawks organization is. So it's much appreciated.
The way you've timed this out too, with its salary caps and when entry level deals, and it's obviously a kaleidoscope.
Mm-hmm.
The way things move around. You've got a little room left, I think, this year. Are you happy with how this is? All these moving pieces are coming together long term with your management of salaries and salary cap.
I am, yeah. I don't think anything we've done. We've spent a little more this summer, obviously, but I don't think anything that we've done has or will hinder the bigger picture here. We're very, salary cap's rising. We haven't signed any obligations that kind of tighten your collar a little bit where you're uncomfortable with anything. We have added some better players, I think, but nothing that will hinder the opportunity or the potential payment of some of our younger prospects. So very happy, very comfortable with everything that's happened and the horizon at which it's playing out in.
With Bertuzzi, you just finally had to get your Sudbury guy on the active roster.
Well, we already got Nick. We had to get another Sudbury guy. Yeah, right? So, it's just funny how it works out that way. It was certainly not someone we target because he's from Sudbury, but it doesn't hurt his case.
What's the conversation like with Levchinov and his representation about where he's going to play next year?
Yep. Kind of having those conversations right now. With Artie, I don't think there's a wrong answer. Adam Nightingale and the Michigan State staff have a world-class program. And so if he were to return to college, then he's got a really great program, facilities, system that he's going to play in on a good team in a great league. So that would be great. If he turns pro, we will have hands-on all the time, which is always a huge benefit on our end to have that 24/7 ability to have those touch points every day and really hone in on the development and the play and the lifestyle of a young player. And so whichever way it goes, I believe he'll be in a great position to take some really positive steps, but hopefully figure that out in the next week or so.
With Ryan, does the same thing apply to him as applies to Kuczynski, that, not guaranteed
Mm-hmm.
spot even though he played a lot last year?
Yep. Yeah. No, and it goes for the veterans too. Like, you got to come in and make this team. Like, you're not. Nothing's given. This is the NHL, and we're gonna, use the players that give us the best opportunity to push this thing forward and make positive strides, and so it's up to the players to show up and make sure that they put their name on a roster spot, whether they're a rookie, young in their career, or a veteran, that's got a ton of experience in the league. Everyone's got to come in and make the team and show that they've got what it takes to help push this thing forward.
I know you've been happy with Luke the first 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
but to have a maybe more predictable NHL group, does it help you assess him as a coach and just making sure that he's a long-term fit too, and just what he can do with a more capable roster?
Yeah, I believe so. The record and the losing, has obviously been, tough on everyone, but I also don't necessarily know if it's given a true glimpse into what Luke is as a coach outside of, we know he can get guys to show up and compete. And so, and that's a huge part of the job, but hopefully, with a little bit of a stronger roster coming into camp this year will allow him to really take hold and instill some execution aspects of the game that that will be necessary for us to take a step forward this year. And it's a great opportunity for him. It's a great opportunity for the staff to really grab hold of an enhanced group that he can really show what he can do.
Everyone under contract, do you expect them to be healthy for camp? Does anyone have surgery or anything?
I believe so. Yeah, I don't think there's any outstanding. No, like I'm just thinking of some of the prospects. Like Van Acker's got his shoulder; he's not in a contract though. But yeah, I think everyone should be good to go come training camp as we stand right now.
Also, I wanted to ask, taking this step forward, you probably won't have another top 5 draft pick, ideally. Are you comfortable with where the forward prospect group stands, knowing that you're kind of moving forward and might not have a chance to add another super elite player to that?
Yeah, I'm really comfortable with where we're at. I think we've got some really exciting players in the pipeline right now. I think obviously Connor was here last year, but your Ryan Greens, your Moores, your Frank Nazars, and then the guys that are more recently drafted. There's a lot of upside to them as well, and so and that's just the prospect pool. That's only one way to really improve the team. There's always free agency trade. There's other ways as well, but specifically with the prospect pool, I'm extremely happy with where it's at. If we don't add someone above those guys in the drafts to come, then I think we're in a really good spot, and we're in a spot that we can be really excited about moving forward. So no, I'm not concerned if we don't get another top pick.
Back to the development of players, what's been the challenge of finding the right balance? Everyone says no one has the same path.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you have a philosophy. How do you kind of balance what's right for the guy and what you kind of think should be right for the guy?
Yeah, it's somewhat cliche, but I believe it is case by case, and you're always trying to challenge but not overwhelm, and I think that's the balance we always try and strike with development, is that you want them to be challenged, you want them to be pushed, but you also don't want them just to be treading water, or even slightly better than that. You want them to be pushed but be able to excel, and to the point where their confidence is always growing, their ability to maybe try some new things is always growing. The NHL is obviously the best league in the world. It's really hard for players to do that at the NHL level. As really young players, there is a time and place, but I believe it's hard for them to really grow that confidence and try new things and push their game to new levels as really young players at the NHL level. And so, we'll see where guys come into camp and kind of make the evaluations from there to see where they need to be to really take that next step. And because this is all about achieving their ceilings, longer term. We want them to hit what we believe they can be and what we believe they will be with responsible development. But we're not going to put players in the NHL just to say we have young players in the NHL. It's got to be the right thing to do.
Whenever someone starts a job or a career or whatever it is, you have a vision.
Mm-hmm.
This is your third off season that you're finishing up, and obviously you started with a vision,
Mm-hmm.
and you continue that vision on. What has gone according to what you were hoping would happen, and what's been maybe a more pleasant surprise outside of winning the lottery last year with Connor?
Yeah,
What's
it's
been a really good pleasant surprise for you?
For me, starting this vision out a couple of years ago, it was always through the draft. It was always the foundation was going to be built through the draft. It wasn't going to be built through trade or free agency, and to have 8 first-round picks the last 3 drafts, and for them to go as well as they have. I referenced it after the first round, is that we've had these players that we've wanted and that we've targeted going into the draft. And, you can't get all of them just based on, you can only have a certain number of picks, and you like a lot of players, and, you can't have 5 first-round picks every year, so you can't get everyone. But everyone on our short lists that we really wanted to get early in drafts, we've gotten players from those groups. We've never had to settle or take someone that we weren't extremely enthused about or overly excited about. Everyone we've gotten, especially early and even into the earlier rounds past the first round, they've been players that we've targeted, we've wanted to make Blackhawks, and we were able to do it. Again, as I said before, time will tell if that vision and that excitement and that evaluation going into the drafts will bear fruit. But as we stand after those drafts and now, and seeing the development of some of those earlier draft picks, I think the group is extremely excited about where this is headed and where we believe these players are headed to eventually create something really special here in Chicago.
To follow up to that, with the signings that you made, and you've already touched on this,
Yep.
numerous questions, but does it kind of just let everybody do their job now without that concern of, oh God, we got to call this guy up, and now we have another injury, and we have to go pick somebody up? Does it kind of just put everybody in maybe a better headspace from you all the way down?
I think so. Yeah. I just think back to last year, and we've done it the last 2 years where, look, we've claimed some players on, and again, you don't want to. We're not going to claim someone on waivers, but we had to fill holes through desperation trade or waiver claim, and those players filled in very well, and they did a very good job for us. But when you're signing players in free agency right at the start of the UFA season, it's just a different level of player, and so that's exciting about that. But I believe we've got a position where we can be responsible with development. We can create roster competition, accountability, raise the level of our NHL team, but also protect against things like we saw last year. And look, I've been in Chicago for over 10 years, and I've never seen a rash of injuries like that. So you don't plan on that. You don't sign a team around that. But we went through it last year, and we were not the deepest team to begin with, and we became a really shallow team in the middle of that year with all those injuries. And that's not fair to the veterans, not fair to the especially the young players, having to step in and play such heavy minutes, that early in their career, and to be asked of so much from them during those times that's not healthy for their development. That's not what we want. And so to be able to create depth, and then if there are injuries and there's a player that is going to come up and be able to come into a spot that's into a team that's a little more positive and maybe getting a few more wins than we did last year, I think that'll only serve them well, and it'll be a great environment for the young players that are here. But then there's a great environment in Rockford that they can own next year too. But I think the options on where to put players and the environments to place young players only comes with more depth, and I think that's something we've achieved the last couple of days.
With a lot of guys coming in, and also there were a lot of guys going out. Some that
Yeah.
have been here a long time, like Rich Johnson.
Yep.
Did you have conversations with them, kind of thinking, was it difficult to kind of part ways?
Yeah, we didn't necessarily have conversations with them one-on-one just because we didn't know what direction we were going to go in with them until later on. But it's always hard because they're great guys. Like I all the player, and I'm happy to see a lot of them have signed, which is really nice. They've found good homes, they've found spots, and so that's great. But it's hard. It's hard because you care about these guys, and you want them to have good careers, and you know what? It's the business that it doesn't necessarily all work out for everyone in the same spot with you, but you're happy to see them find spots elsewhere. But that's more so a conversation later in the off season and towards the end of June when you're really getting down to it and okay, maybe we want to go in a different direction here. We've given it proper consideration, then you let the agent know, and in some cases, just kind of wish them the best and hope that they can continue their career elsewhere.
And then with, you look at guys that you brought in like Bertuzzi,
Mm-hmm.
players that you drafted, like Warfare.
Yep.
Is there a recognition that, you know, you have some skill guys, but you need guys that are tough in corners, tough in net front, you know, other areas of the ice, or does that just happen?
I think that just happened. Yeah, no, it's nice that there's an abrasiveness, if you can call it that, to their game, but that's not the sole reason why you go and get those players. There's talent there to begin with. You know, the ability, you know, Tyler didn't score 30 goals. He's gritty. He's a talented player. And so, you know, it's a nice add-on. And then Sasha didn't go in the first round because he took boxing growing up or something, right? You know, there's a talent there, and there's a projectable player in there that you're really excited about, that has high value, and then this, you know, grittiness or ability to play hard, or the, you know, lack of fear in his game is a great add-on to the profile. But it all starts with the talent first and foremost, to be able to play, you know, a special game. You know, you don't go in the first round without that. And so it starts with that, but the nice, you know, side add-on is that, you know, abrasiveness.
Just to follow up about the nickel, of course, Nick and Mike, you know, all those guys. Do you still stay in touch with Mike Polino, even though he's retired?
I haven't talked to Mike in quite some time. No, I have not. Yeah, it's been a number of years since I've talked to Mike. Hopefully I'll catch up with him when I'm back up in Sudbury over the summer and see Nick. And but no, I haven't spoken to Mike in quite some time.
And the Wolves gave you your first kind of hockey job at that.
Correct. That was Mike. Mike was might have been coach and GM at the time, and he just let me help out at the drafts. The draft is online in the OHL, and so he let me help out in the draft room on draft day, just kind of, you know, whatever, running, getting information, and you know, anything they might need, you know, for the scouts or whatever, to make a pick, or, you know, just miscellaneous stuff. I was just kind of hanging around, and he gave me that access. And so, yeah, that was my first, I don't call it a job, but, you know, first ability to have a little insight into the hockey operations of a junior team, at least.
Awesome. I'm the oldest person in the room, so I can say I'm sure.
Yeah.
After the goals with
Right.
the helmet on and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
The risk of this being a little early, any thoughts about the captain situation?
Yeah, no, haven't given that any thought right now. It's, you know, I don't even know what day it is, early July. So we'll probably talk about if we want to make a move there as the summer goes on.
Going back to what Phil was saying about kind of the grittiness and some of the roles, do you see some of the veterans that you brought in playing a role that you can then project a younger player into, possibly like, hey, Frank Nazar, Teo Teravainen, similar size, similar skill set, hey, Colton Dock, look at how Tyler Bertuzzi plays. Is there any thinking in maybe showing the prospects what it might look like at the next level as well?
It's a good thought. I didn't really think about it that way, but it's always good to have, you know, role models, either, you know, off the ice or on, right? And good examples of how to play the game and how to be effective, how to carve out a nice career for yourself, as those two certainly have done. So there's always that benefit. That wasn't necessarily a model or a reason why we got those players, but it can only serve to help for players to see something in themselves in those veteran players that they can, you know, either ask questions or really, you know, dig into their game and learn from. And so that's the reason why you have good vets around, is to bring them along, you know, in their own path. You don't want to create, you know, an archetype for them to have to live up to, but they'll find their way. But there's certainly similarities that a lot of our young players can find in both the veterans that were here and the new guys coming in. So it's a good point. It's a good side benefit. Yeah.
You talk about wanting to take the next step in the rebuild. You made forward signings, defenseman
Mhm.
signings, but how important was it to get kind of a 1B goaltender to make sure that you have two goalies that are giving you a chance to win every night?
Definitely. You know, I believe it's extremely important that, you know, I think we saw Peter was extremely solid last year and gave the team a ton of confidence, and Arvid had a bit of a tough year. Granted, we weren't great in front of him and didn't put him in the greatest situation to succeed, but this will give him an opportunity to reload, get his confidence back, and be able to get back on that trajectory that he was on, prior to some struggles last year. But bringing in Brissois, you'll know when he goes in the net, you're going to get solid performance. The guys can believe in him back there, and he's been a really good kind of 1B or backup for quite some time in our league, and sort of bring someone in that's established like that, knows the league, knows how to step in when needed is super important, and really happy to make that addition.
When you were talking to top 6 forward agents, how much did the opportunity to play with Connor come up in conversation? Is that a real thing when you're talking to different agents?
Yeah, it does. I think it's more opportunity from a general sense, I would say, rather than who they'll play with. Because we can try and make lines, in early July, but you never know how that's going to shake out. It's more so the opportunity and the upward mobility of a certain situation, and I believe we provided that. And so it was something that made sense for those players. But no, people ask about Connor for sure. It's there's a lot of gravity there, and so it does come up along the way. But you also don't want to get yourself into trouble promising, line positions or anything like that. It's more so the general opportunity that the organization provides.
Anybody mentioned to you that by bringing back Teravainen, you've joined that storied Blackhawk tradition of bringing back former players?
No, yeah, I haven't necessarily heard that, but it's funny. This is way back whenever Tavo came over. I picked Tavo up from the airport when he first came over, and so it'll be nice. I don't even know if he remembers me or knows that guy that picked him up is the same person that signed him now, but that whether he knows it or not, we've got a little bit more history there than he may understand. So, we shared, when he first came over, we shared a couple meals out together. He didn't know anyone, so I was kind of giving him the lay of the land a little bit early on in his career when he first stopover from Finland. So.
What was that title, man?
Pardon? I have no clue. I've had so many titles, I can't remember. Assistant to something, who knows? Yeah, I don't know.
Is that a trippy kind of full circle moment for you?
It definitely is. It was just even looking and being like, he's 29. He's 29. Holy geez. That's for me where it feels like, okay, I've sort of been around a little while too. The years have gone by so fast that you lose track of, the years that have passed. And so, but yeah, that was definitely a weird one, thinking that, I picked this guy up when he was, 19 or whatever at O'Hare, coming over for the first time to play for the Blackhawks, and driving him. I drove him home after games and stuff from back to his hotel. And so it was, it's funny to kind of see that come full circle where I'm signing to a new contract and bringing him in as a veteran player when I picked him up at the airport as, the youngest player on the team at the time.
Did you pick him up this time?
No, I don't think he's arrived yet. I probably won't, though. I think he can figure it out now. He can speak the language. He can navigate Uber or a taxi or whatever, so I'll let him figure that out. Yeah. Someone else can pick him up if he needs it.
Good motivator for younger guys in the front office.
Right, yeah, for sure. No, there's, 100%. You never know what's going to pay off in the end, or the relationships that you're making along the way that come full circle later on, so.
What car you were driving?
No. Probably something with duct tape on the fender or something. Yeah, no, I have no clue. I can't remember. No, that's a funny question. That was it. No, you take guys to get their social security number, like Marcus Kruger, and that was more so the time back then. But no, Tavo was the one that I picked up and spent the most time with, because I was younger and he was by far the youngest, and so made sure he was comfortable here in Chicago, and I think I was probably his first friend over here until he navigated the locker room and found some guys to hang out with there, and then he let him go with the team after that. So Yep.
Kyle from Chicago shirt when you see him?
I don't think so. No, I'm trying to do away with that. I still get asked about it, but no, I don't even own one of those shirts. But saw one in Vegas. It was pretty funny. Yeah.
Are we good, guys? Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.